right, so we have a couple things going on here. I have to give these envelopes, one to Ms. Torrence and one to Mr. Brenner. Where's Mr. Brenner? Because Ms. Torrence is going to get her envelope and get started, get a head start on Brenner. Where's Brenner? Boom, hey. So these two, Torrence and Brenner, are being given a set of words, and then they are going to go backstage here, and they're going to create some spontaneous poetry using those words, and other words, I'm sure, otherwise it will make no sense. But that's their job. So they've got about 20 minutes to do that, right? You go ahead and get started. All right, again, Brenner, you're just wasting time. But he doesn't care about numbers, so it probably is fine. Anyway, the other thing that we are doing with this period is we're doing 2 truths and a lie. And maybe some of you are familiar with this. If you've been to Writers Week, that would be seniors. Seniors, give a shout out for being a senior. And yes, very good. And hopefully you remember Writers Week from your freshman year. And then, of course, we had a hiatus of sorts there. But we did 2 truths and a lie a couple times in the past. And what we'll have 3 teachers come out here. They will each tell a story that is about 4 minutes long. And they've written down their story. They've crafted it. And then you have to listen carefully and try to figure out which of the 3 of them is lying to you, okay? 2 are telling you true stories, and 1 is lying. And then after all 3 have said their stories, they will sit over here on the couch, and you guys get to do a Q&A, and so you can interrogate them, all right? And you want to figure out which one the liar is, and then we'll do a vote to see like how many people think it's this person, how many people think it's this person, whatever, and then we will, of course, reveal the truth. And then toward the end of the period, we'll have our 2 poets come out, and they will share their poetry and talk about their writing process and all of that. So that's how it's going to run, okay? Any questions? Of course not. You're brilliant people. Okay. So we have 3 faculty members who are going to do their stories. Did you all decide who's going first? Do you want us to decide who's going first? Should I go the order that's on the page? All right. Well, let's start with Dr. Herrmann. She is your superintendent, folks, so you want to give her a big round of applause as she comes out and does her story.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Denise Herrmann, and this is my first year serving as your superintendent, and I could not be prouder to work with your teachers, your principals. It's just been an amazing experience to help lead this fantastic district. The story that I'm going to share with you happened when I was about 38 years old, so that's almost 20 years ago now, and it happened on the golf course. Growing up, there was a small golf course that our family belonged to, just a 9-hole course. I grew up about 90 minutes west of here, so in a small town out near DeKalb. And I was golfing with 3 of my high school girlfriends, and that was one of the ways that we stayed connected, was to try and golf in different outings. And so we were playing in a golf scramble, and for those of you who golf, you know that that means that you take turns hitting balls, and it's a little bit less formal than a formal round of golf. Well, we started, you also have a shotgun start, and so on this particular day, we started on the 7th hole, which is my absolute favorite hole of those 9 holes. And I started off with a good game, and I felt pretty good about it. But that meant we had to finish on the 6th hole, which was my absolute worst hole. It's the water hole, the one where if you go too far, you go out of bounds. If you go to the right, you go out of bounds. If you leave it short, you go in the water. And so we were doing pretty well, and I thought back to the last time I'd played that course a couple days ago with my husband. And on that time, when I did my first ball, it went out of bounds into the forest preserve. My second ball went too short, in the water. So I was a little nervous stepping up because we thought we were going to be in the money to win some money for this scramble. So I get up to the tee, try to forget my previous 2 shots, hit the ball, goes flying over the water, looks like it's heading towards the pin. It goes about 6 foot above the pin, hits, starts to roll back down towards the pin. My girlfriends come running up to the tee box, and just as it sank in the hole, we all were just screaming bloody murder with joy that I had got my first hole in one. It was an amazing experience, And to boot, so that was the last hole of this tournament. So then when you go back into the clubhouse and you're celebrating, a tradition at our golf course is that when you hit a hole-in-one, you have to buy everyone a round of drinks. And so the winnings did not cover the round of drinks that I had to buy for all of my friends and people who were there. But it was a very special day. And for those of you who are golfers, you know how special it is to have a hole-in-one. So that's my story, and I look forward to hearing stories from my two colleagues, and I will have the next person come out.
Hello. All right, I'm going to read mine to you. You might find this hard to believe, but I have something in common with former Cubs All-Star Chris Bryant. The truth is, Chris Bryant and I both know what it's like to be asked for an autograph by a die-hard Cubs fan while working for the Cubs. Although Bryant has been playing baseball for 7 years, I've been an English teacher for 34 years, since 1988 to be exact. Now that's a long time, and a lot can change in 34 years. So let's travel back in time to 1988 and set the scene for my story, my true story. Something you need to know is that back in 1988, I spent my summer working at Wrigley Field in the accounting department. It was a dream job. My responsibilities were to collect cash from the vendors and commissaries during the game and count it all at the end of the game. It reminded me of those gangster movies where people sit behind bill counting machines, adding up piles of cash and sorting it into neat little bundles. Something else you should know is that back in 1988, the sports scene included not just the NFL, but a competing league called the USFL. Chicago's team was called the Blitz, and New Jersey's team was called the Generals. As a matter of fact, the Generals was owned by a 41-year-old real estate investor named Donald Trump, whose just published book, The Art of the Deal, was at the top of the New York Times bestseller list. Interestingly, Trump did an interview with Oprah Winfrey in 1988 in which he said he'd like to be president one day, but no one took him very seriously. You know who else wasn't taken very seriously back in 1988? Most Chicago sports teams, certainly not the Blitz. And even though the Bears were recent Super Bowl champs, the Bulls had not yet won any of their 6 championships. The Hawks hadn't won the Stanley Cup in decades, and neither the Cubs nor the White Sox had won a World Series since the turn of the century. Yet the Cubs, despite their losing ways, were wildly popular. The team appeared to have embraced the identity of the lovable losers. The Cubs back then were backwards in so many ways, including the fact that they were the only team not to have lights in their stadium for night games. But that changed on August 8, 1988, when they played their very first night game at Wrigley Field. Sort of, and I was asked by a fan for an autograph. That's right, I was asked by a fan to sign the baseball he had caught that day at the friendly confines. Here's how things went down. The first night game at Wrigley was played before a crowd of 39,000 fans. The city was enduring a brutal heat wave that month. Even though the temperature that evening was 90 degrees, storm clouds loomed overhead when the game started at 7:01. Hoping to witness history, I left my office tucked away beneath the bleachers and climbed to the upper deck to watch Rick Sutcliffe take the mound for the Cubbies. My Cubs ID badge, blazoned proudly on my lapel, granted me access to just about anywhere in the ballpark. Countless fans eyed my badge and my job with envy. One such fan, however, caught me off guard when he approached and asked if I would sign a baseball he had caught earlier that day. "You want my autograph? On your baseball?" I asked. "Of course," he said. And so, with his girlfriend looking on, I dated the ball 8/8/88 and signed it with a flourish. "Thanks," he said, "you made our night." Later in the 4th inning, with the Cubs leading the Phillies 3-1, the storm clouds opened and the rain came down. 2 hours later, at 10:30, The umpires called the game. Since at least 5 innings need to take place to be ruled an official game, this game did not count. The game against the Phillies, in typical cursed Cubs fashion, fell a few outs short of making history. So the first official night game took place the next night on 8/9/88. President Ronald Reagan threw out the opening pitch, and the Cubs beat the Mets 6-4. 8/8/88 turned out to be utterly forgettable, the game that wasn't. But for me, it will always be completely unforgettable, the first time the Cubs played under the lights and the first time someone asked me for my autograph. Or was it?
Hi, I'm Miss Elmore. My story begins on a cold February night in 2017. I left school late, having sold concessions at the basketball game with the Coding Cats Club. A month and a half into the new year, I was determined to keep my New Year's resolution of getting more sleep. So I headed home and went straight to bed. At around 2 a.m., I was jolted from a deep sleep by a loud crash accompanied by the sound of breaking glass. I jumped out of bed just in time to see my cat racing down the hall. Certain he had managed to knock over a cabinet in the dining room, I ran downstairs to survey the damage. Expecting to see broken glass everywhere, I was surprised to find nothing out of place. After checking the rest of the main level of the house, I still had no explanation as to what had happened. Now I started to worry. My kids were grown and my cat and I were the only ones living in the house at the time. Was there an intruder in the house, maybe hiding in a closed room or the basement or garage? I worked up the courage to investigate. I cautiously checked every room. When I opened the door to my son's room, I saw it. A bookshelf had crashed to the floor with its contents, CDs and plastic cases, scattered everywhere. But what had made the sturdy shelf suddenly fall from the wall where it had been hanging for years? Finding no clues as to the cause, I closed the door, cleaning the mess would have to wait, and headed back to my room. I tried to come up with any logical explanation. I even turned on the news, hoping to learn we'd had an earthquake, but nothing. Now I was truly afraid. To understand my fear, we need to go back several years to a time when I was still married and my 2 kids were in junior high. My husband, Clark, had been away all weekend. The kids were already in bed when he came home that Sunday evening. Before we went to sleep, we could hear our daughter in her room. She kept getting out of bed and then back into bed. We expected her to eventually open the door and come out of her room, but she never did. The next morning, Clark told me he had woken up during the night to see a woman hanging from the ceiling fan. He said he couldn't breathe and he tried to wake me. Well, I thought, of course, it was just a dream. But he swore it was not a dream, and in the 20 years we'd been together, nothing like this had ever happened before. He left for work, and I was still sure he had just had a very vivid dream. Later, when Amber woke up, I asked her why she kept getting in and out of bed. Her answer stunned me. She said, "That lady wouldn't leave." She went on to explain that there had been a woman standing at the foot of her bed. Amber kept getting up to run out of the room, but instead jumped back into bed because the woman was in her way. Over the years, other incidents followed. Once, Amber was sitting in her room when one of the blades from her ceiling fan broke off and dropped to the floor for no apparent reason. Another happened when she was in high school. I was in the kitchen one morning when she came downstairs earlier than usual. I said, "You're up early." She replied, "Well, you flung my door open. What are you so mad about?" Needless to say, I had not flung her door open. Her dad was out of town and her brother was still sound asleep. There was no one else in the house to fling her door open. So back to that night in 2017. I sat on the edge of my bed, afraid to go back to sleep. So much for my New Year's resolution. The next morning, I called Clark to tell him what had happened. His immediate response was, "It must have been the ghost." We both laughed it off. Just a couple of weeks later, I came downstairs one morning to find a large wall-mounted speaker dangling by its wires. There was a gaping hole in the drywall where the anchor had ripped out and a trail of gouges left by the speaker as it made its descent. Clark agreed to stop by the house on his lunch break to check it out. He texted me later to say there was nothing wrong with the drywall itself and that the anchor was meant to hold 100 pounds. He could see no reason for it to have come out of the wall, but he offered to fix it for me. My reply, thank you, and could you please take the ghost with you when you leave?
All right, so now's the really fun part where you all get to ask questions of our three storytellers to try and find out which one is the liar and which two are just honest and good people. Okay, so let me give them this microphone. Whoa, that's loud. And then I'll just try to point to people in the audience, and then you just shout out your questions. So we'll start with you, but let's give the mic over here. You guys just pass it. Thank you. Great job, by the way. All right.
I have a question about the golf story. Yep. What golf course?
Indian Oaks Country Club in Shabana, Illinois. It's a 9-hole course. It's beautiful. Majestic Oaks. It's a very nice course.
All right, see some more hands up. Let's go, Meg.
I also have a question for the superintendent. If you don't mind me asking, what was your job at the time?
Let's see, when I was 38, I would have been an assistant principal at a high school in St. Charles North. So, yep, that's what I was doing. Former chemistry teacher.
Thank you.
All right, yes, sir.
For Dr. Lee, were you perhaps studying in college in 1988?
Yes. Yep. Well, that was the summer right between, graduating college and about to start teaching.
Go ahead.
For the ghost story, what was the breed of the cat at the beginning of the story?
My cat, I don't know that he has a breed. He's a house cat. He's ginger colored. Yeah, he's kind of crazy. If any of my students were on Zoom with me last year, you know my cat.
Did you ever find out the name of the ghost?
We never found anything like about. We had a theory. You want to hear the theory?
Yeah, follow up though. Have you seen the ghost since?
I have never seen the ghost personally, only my ex-husband and my daughter. And he was actually in Wisconsin building a cabin at the time. And our theory was perhaps he brought the ghost home with him because the previous owners of the house hadn't had anything happen.
Go ahead.
Do you still live in the house?
I do still live in the house.
Can I ask why?
Because I haven't found the time to pack up all my stuff and move. Yeah.
All right, let's go to the center up here. Sorry, get to your.
Dr. Reed, you said you had an accounting job at the field, correct?
Yes, I did.
How do you get an accounting job when you are an English major?
Well, no, there was, it's one of those kind of jobs where, like, if the people that are working there know you, they can get you a job there. So I had a couple of buddies that were working, doing the same work, and, there was an opening, so they were like, hey, come join us, and I was like, sounds great. I mean, we just had to count the bills, so it wasn't really like high-tech accounting, Nice. So there was my buddy Mike Birdie, and then my other buddy Bob Kirchen.
Who's Nasla?
No, but it is a water hole. It's a par 3. So that's why it was a hole-in-one. I think the length is about 110. That changes a little bit as they move the hole back and forth, but I think that, and I used a pitching wedge to hit it over.
What? Oh.
Mistake you for someone and, like, Gary Sinise or something?
Or Kirk Cameron. I looked a lot like him in the 80s. No, I think they just saw I was a representative of the Cubs, so this would make it official. Go ahead, Jack.
Dr. Reed, do you remember
I had it in my paper, right? I think it was 3-1 Cubs. I forgot. Yeah. Whew, my DOI class is really grilling me like an interview. Is there someone? Yes, right in the middle with the red hat on.
I said it was a pitching wedge, and my husband had a set of clubs made for me. Pardon? What brand? Brand of golf club. It was a custom-made set. The Golf Pro would make clubs to fit. The driver I use is like a Big Bertha, but my irons and pitching wedge are sort of an off-brand that the Pro made for me.
All right, are there any more questions? We have time for more, but we can also reveal. I'd rather have a few more questions.
Is there someone in the back over there? Yeah, there was the Mets. Yeah, I don't remember the score. I just remember I got it, I was asked for an autograph. That was the main thing. And then I think there was somebody in the red sweater over here that had a question. Yeah. I don't remember. Probably Bill Murray. I bet Bill Murray was there. And Cusick, John Cusick, maybe. Don't know. Yes, Alex.
What was the attendance, did you say, at the game?
39,000. You guys are like fact checking me. I don't think that's not fair. You can't do that. Eva.
That's not the end of the period.
I saved it up. There's so much depth here. There's so much you don't know about me. There's a front that I show and then the reality. Are we good, Craig?
Yeah, I think so. Any other questions? Last call, right here.
I have a question for Ms. Elmore. Did you was the nose only active at night?
I don't remember, I think the time that when the ceiling, that morning, the one was the morning, right, when my daughter came down early in the morning. And the ceiling fan incident, I think, happened during the day. Other than that, I think it was all at night.
All right, are we ready to reveal?
I do see one more hand back there.
Another hand back here. Okay. You know who the owner of the Cubs was?
There was the Tribune, I think, at that time. Yeah. Yep. So.
Back here? Question back there? No? It's a little hard to see with the light, so I apologize. One more. All right.
Yes, Sarah. Yeah, so he had the pen, and he was, actually like right around my age, maybe a little younger. Yeah, and kind of a little shorter than me and dark hair. And yeah, if he caught the ball during the practice before the game started, he said, and then he just wanted me to sign and make it official. Yeah, he was a nice looking young man. All right, Alex. Well, I don't know where he caught the ball, actually, but he was, he could have caught the ball and then walked around with it. It wasn't like... All right.
All right, can we, sorry, let's do one more from back here, sorry.
What name?
I actually signed, my name, Paul Reiff, and then I put my ID number on it and the date, because I thought my ID number, kind of like Miss Nassen's question, I'm a nobody, right? So I put my ID number on there to make it official.
Okay, your class is not going to let this go. All right, can we agree to one more question and then we'll reveal the truth? Okay, go ahead, right there.
I believe there was 6 digits. That's all I remember. No, I don't remember the number of my ID from all that time ago. I mean, you know me, Ellie. I don't remember what happened yesterday, much less a number from 30 years ago.
Okay, so let's reveal which one is the liar. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, of course. Sorry, voting. All right, so let's take it with Dr. Herrmann. You only get one vote here, okay? This is serious stuff. But if you think that Dr. Herrmann is our resident liar, please stand up or give a big round of applause. Let's do it. Let's say, should we do it standing up or? Stand up. If you can stand up, if you think Dr. Herrmann is our liar. Now, let's see. Oh, it's not too many people, or is it? It's growing. It's growing. That's the superintendent. Yeah. Dr. Herrmann is our superintendent. All right. Not a huge number. Okay. All right, please have a seat. I do? All right. Okay. Okay, so that was for if you thought Dr. Herrmann was the liar. So if you didn't stand before, because you didn't hear me, and now you want to add and think that she is the liar, you can stand up. If you already stood up, I got you, I think. But anybody else? All right, so person number 2, Dr. Reiff. Dr. Reiff's entire class, who has gotten to know him so well, believes that he is a liar, probably because he said the person who caught the ball was shorter than he was. Okay. All right, you all may sit down. That seemed to be, that's probably a majority. But let's go with our storyteller number 3, Miss Elmore. If you believe that she is lying about the whole ghost incident, stand right up. All right. Okay, thank you all for your participation and your attention. Let's go ahead and have our reveal. So, on the count of 3, and you guys can mess around with this if you want a little bit, but we'll have our liar reveal himself or herself. 1, 2, 3. Who is it? All right. All right, that was a compliment over there. It was too clever. All right, so, yeah. I'm going to hand the mic back to these folks. They're going to tell you how they come up with their stories or whatever else, maybe answer a few more questions, and here you go.
Yeah, so I know my DOI class, DOI appeals to a group of students, type of student that really cares about the truth, pursuing the truth, knowing the facts, seeing evidence. So in the booth there, if you could show, there it is. There's the proof, there's the evidence. I'd like to point out especially, I'm not so good with numbers, but I would like to point out the mullet, business in the front, party in the back, mullet, very proud of that in 1988. You can see the resemblance to Kirk Cameron. And a lot can change in 30 years, like I said, so don't have that curly hair anymore, but yep. Worked at Wrigley. Everything I said was true. Didn't make up anything.
All right. How about if Dr. Herrmann tells us a bit about how she crafted her story and how you're motivated by it or whatever. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Well, I do love to golf, so 99% of that story was true. I have 3 girlfriends from high school. We golf all the time until I became a superintendent. Now I don't have time to golf, but I have had several near hole-in-ones, so I know how thrilling it is when you hit it and it's going towards the flag and you think it's going to go in, but I've never experienced that thrill. My husband had, so I wasn't on the course when he did, but I know how happy he was. So I today was inspired by his success at winning a hole-in-one, and combining it with my pleasure of being on the golf course, and so that inspired me to sort of live vicariously through him today. But for those of you who don't play golf, it really is a fun sport in terms of very social, and you're playing against yourself, and you're also playing with a team sometimes, and I like that about both of those things. So, and I had other really good truth stories I could have shared also, but I am so happy I got to be a little creative and combine some things that I love in my life.
Still living with the ghost. Been inactive since 2017 as far as I know now. Something's probably going to happen tonight, and I'm going to be freaked out. But I don't know, writing the story for me was, just thinking back to that whole sequence of events, and I kind of verified some of the details with my daughter and whatnot, but yeah.
I'd just like to make a pitch for next time we do this. Like everybody in this room can do what we did. Just pick something from your life and write about it. So when you do Writers Expo again next year, like the heart and soul of this thing is really student sharing. So I encourage you guys to write up something and share it, and it's really a lot of fun. I was very nervous before. I was standing at the podium and kind of shaking, even though it's like I speak in front of groups all day, But then you get over that and you share your story, and it's very exhilarating. So think about participating next year.
All right, let's give them one big round of applause before we bring out our poets. Stand up, yes. All right, so we're thanking them. There were people I was supposed to thank at the beginning and I forgot to. So there are plenty of people who made this possible, many of whom are standing right over there, in fact. But do me a favor, and I'm just going to give a quick list, and if you guys could give a round of applause, please, to the following people. First of all, Mr. Tooley, who is actually the one who planned this entire event. It was not me. It was Mr. Tooley, who's around backstage somewhere. And of course, we have all of our helpers who help with the lighting and the filming and doing the slides. There's a lot of production that goes into something like this. So if you would give all of our helpers in that regard a big round of applause, because you can't have anything like this without them. All right. Let's go ahead and bring our poets out. And of course, Ms. Torrence, are you going to go first? All right, let's have Ms. Torrence come out, and she can tell you what she was able to come up with her 15 words. Be ready to be blown away.
Thank you. A lot of confidence there. All right, so before I start, I will just share this tidbit that it's a little nerve-wracking to write it so fast. I got downstairs, and I was like, oh, geez, look at that list of words. I don't know if I can do it. So I decided I'd just go with a challenge of do them in order. I don't know if that made it easier or harder for me, but I was like, I'm just going to do it in order and see what happens. Here goes. Try not to clap before it's completely over. Here goes. 12 glorious years between Writers Week and Writers Expo. We've been capably writing lines, connecting like vines across the delicate years. That last line was weak, but nonetheless, this poem is writing itself as I go along. I'm as shocked as anyone. I read the words and thought, oh, utter devastation. Nothing in this list is provoking any imagery. I'm biting my nails, or is it my tongue? I'll tell you what's flat out wrong is this internet connection from the green room downstairs where I was writing. Waiting, reconnecting. I'm beginning to sour on my work. There's a faint hint of possibility in my writing thus far, but which way should I go? To the second edit. Take the draft and tweak it. 12 glorious runs between Writers Week and Expo puns. We've been capably writing lines, climbing like rhyming vines across delicate roller coaster times. That last line was wrong, maybe long, but nonetheless, this poem is writing itself as I go along. I'm as shocked as anyone in the nation. I read this list of words and thought, oh, utter devastation. Nothing in this list is provoking any images. I'm biting my nails, but not my appendages. I'll tell you what is flat out wrong is the internet connection from the green room is gone. Waiting, reconnecting, panic and relocating. I'm beginning to sour on my work and my bloviating. Or is there a faint hint of possibility in my writing today? Which will you hear? That's not for me to say.
That's right. And we have yet another non-English teacher coming up. Could everyone please give a big round of applause for Mr. Rick Brenner?
Okay, leave it alone. In getting down here, I was running late. I thought I was going to faint. It was such a long walk. I'm sure I'm going to go into shock. I'm so nervous I can barely read. Nonetheless, I've decided to proceed. If I just copped out, Miss Torrence would be sure to pout. To leave her in devastation? Oh my gosh, I'd rather do integration. Give me two values to find the area between. My number sense is pretty keen. The question asks, how many grapes grow on a vine? The answer to the integral is 9. It's so easy to integrate if you have a flat line. I thought the number of words would be 12, but 15 into which I must delve? A reaction out of me you guys are trying to provoke. I'm afraid my poem's going to go up in smoke. It's a bad habit, but my nails I am biting. My references, do I need to be citing? I can't a word with delicate rhyme. I'm starting to run out of time. I don't want to end up feeling sour. The look on my face would be dour. I want this to end capably, not inescapably. But I want you to know that I had a lot of fun telling you this pun.
All right, we can, yes, if there's room for Mr. Brenner, great. Let's do the same thing we did before. We only have maybe 5-6 minutes, something like that. So if there are questions for their process, or they could just talk about it. Let me just hand the microphone over to them and let them speak, and then if we have a little bit of time for questions, that'd be great. You went first, so here you go.
Hello. I thought for Writers Week it would be nice to do something with the draft and edit since that's such a big thing that you could see the original, just what came out of my head, and then how I tweaked it. Note, I would tweak it a whole lot more before I ever went to publication, but the buzzer rang, and so I showed up on stage with the best I had at the time. But this guy, I love what you did.
I have little to say. This is pretty accurate. My heart is pounding, and it was pounding. The first, 12 minutes went pretty well, and the closer the clock came to 11, the tougher it became. Oh, I missed your talk.
Any questions? What was the hardest word for you?
The hardest word for me, well, I said I couldn't find a word to rhyme with delicate, so I stuck it in the middle of the sentence. And then, as time is running out, I'm left with capably. Thanks for that. Do you know how many words rhyme with capably? Incapably.
When I did my second draft, I accidentally removed the word delicate. I had written delicate years, and I was like, they're not delicate years. So I changed it to roller coaster. And then I had watched the live stream earlier of Miss Gorley when she wrote the poem, and she said that she went through and checked off the words. And I had a little extra time. I was like, oh yeah, I should go through and bold the words to make sure that I hit them all. And I realized, I took out delicately. It was like I cheated. So I put delicate roller coaster years. I don't know what a delicate roller coaster is, but I went with it anyway because I didn't have any time. And seriously, the internet connection in the green room is terrible. Don't try and do any work from down there. It'll give you 4 seconds of work time and then reconnecting. reconnecting. I was like, no! Paper, computer. It was stressful.
So I don't know, I guess my takeaway is if you're gonna be a writer, maybe don't wait till the very last minute to do it, and that might go for your math homework as well.
Mr. Brenner, I have a question. For your integration joke, were there actually 9 words between when you said that joke?
Yes, I don't know the answer to that.
Good question.
That would be funny.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll try to come up with 3 more words to put in that sentence. The answer to the very hard integral is approximately 9. Am I close? That didn't have a nice flow to it at all.
I'll share a super quick little story. The last poem that I wrote was when we did a secret Wildcat gift exchange before the holidays, and I was assigned to a new math teacher, and I decided to get her a plant. She wanted a plant, and the plant had a nautilus shell, and so I decided to turn it into a little, like, challenge, a little puzzle, and so I wrote little poems each day, and she had to figure out what that gift was gonna be. Long story short, in my poems, it was the Fibonacci sequence was buried in there. Each poem, like the first one had just 1 word, and the next one had 2 words. I don't know if you know the Fibonacci sequence. The numbers add up. So the next one had 3 words, and the next one had 5 words, and then 3 plus 5 is 8 words. 5 plus 8 is 12 words. Anyhow, that was my last writing experience, and I just did it because it was fun, and it would improve our experience of the holidays. And it was math and writing, and I loved it. And so I was counting words hardcore when I was doing that. Yeah, I had to leave words out just to make it fit the puzzle.
I got one more thing. Can I add how impressed I am that you two, did, I literally rewrote, I spent a lot of time for my little 4-minute story. I don't know how you did it.
I don't either.
That's why I picked the impromptu poetry. I had done it another time before, and I was like, it is hard, but it's like 15 minutes of hard instead of like 3 hours of like stress and redo, and it's not good enough. And I just let it out and see what happens. It was less stressful in a weird way.
I have news for you. I put in those 3 hours of stress in the last 12 minutes.
Is it on still? Okay. And to echo what Dr. Reiff said, please, for those of you who are going to still be students here next year, please think about writing something, get involved. We can do 2 Truths and a Lie with students. It's great fun, all right? And for the seniors, we're going to miss you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Please be back here on Monday, and we'll see you then. Bye, everybody.